My name is Thomas, and I get into the deeper meaning of movies. With the upcoming release of 28 Years Later, I decided to go back and watch the 2002 original once again, and it is a masterpiece. Like all the best sci-fi stories, this movie is really about loneliness, the loneliness of individuals, and on a more cosmic scale, the loneliness of humanity itself. Here's our protagonist, Jim. He's in a coma, a death-like sleep. But when he awakes, he finds himself not in the world that he knew, but in a new nightmare, 28 days after the outbreak of the rage virus. Listen to his first line. Hello? Hello. It's the standard British greeting. It's what we say when we pick up the phone and we don't know who's on the other end. And Jim says it a lot in this movie. Hello? 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 Hello?
Come on, sweetheart, say hello.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello, Jim. It becomes a cry for help, a plea for answers. Hello? Is anyone out there? Being a Brit myself, one of the most disturbing parts of the movie is the simple sequence of Jim wandering the empty streets of London. I recognise these places. They're normally teeming with life. It is not good for man to be alone. An unanswered hello is deafening. Hello! Eventually, Jim finds himself in a church, and it is here that he first encounters the infected. Hello? This is meant to be a place of hospitality, of refuge, but very quickly he discovers that this particular church building is no refuge. It is a danger zone. And it is outside that his call for help is finally answered by two survivors, Selina and Mark. Understandably, Selina has developed a rather cold outlook on life. You see this especially in the wake of Mark getting infected, when Selina has no choice but to kill him.
Plans are pointless. Staying alive's as good as it gets.
This is the reality of their new life under the sun, and it's actually how some people sadly see life on Earth in general. Staying alive is as good as it gets. But then Jim notices something.
Hey.
Perhaps he is naive. He hasn't endured this nightmarish world for anywhere near as long as Selina. But he invites her to look up.
What's that?
And just above them is a first glimmer of hope.
Let's go.
More survivors. Frank and his daughter, Hannah.
I think they're good people.
Jim is still something of an optimist, but Selina continues to maintain her cold, utilitarian outlook on life.
Well, that's nice, but you should be more concerned about whether they're going to slow you down.
Right, because if they slowed you down...
I'd leave them behind.
In a heartbeat?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Then you're going to wind up getting yourself killed.
However, it is on the balcony that an even greater glimmer of hope is encountered. A radio message.
Soldiers.
Quiet, there's more.
Location is the 42nd blockade, the M602, 27 miles northeast of Manchester. You must find us. Salvation is it.
And it is en route to this potential salvation in Manchester that Jim makes his first kill. In a burger shack. At first, the place appears deserted. But Jim calls out into the darkness with his characteristic plea.
Hello?
And the darkness responds. A young boy, infected by the rage virus. Jim has no choice but to kill. Wait, did you catch that? There's a voice in the sound mix there that seems to be saying, I hate you. And yet, the infected can't speak. Not English, anyway. It's a fascinating detail. Is it an imagined voice of the boy? Is it the voice of Jim himself from his own childhood? It's the sort of thing a child says before slamming the door in a tantrum. I hate you. I think this scene is telling us that rage is inherent to humanity. From childhood. Yes, the rage virus is transforming these humans into monstrous beings beyond recognition. But is it in fact amplifying the rage that is already present within its hosts? In this film, rage and loneliness go hand in hand, and that makes perfect sense. That's what hell is. The outer darkness, the weeping and wailing and angry gnashing of teeth, rage-driven isolation. Jim experiences something of hell in this burger shack. No wonder he changes the subject when he emerges.
Find anything, Jim.
No, let's get out of here.
But then, the film happens upon an unlikely moment of serenity. The team watch in awe as some horses gallop past, apparently oblivious to the current crisis. An echo of the Garden of Eden. Though it has been corrupted, there is still beauty in this world.
Do you think they're infected?
No, we're doing just fine.
It is in this place of healing that Selina demonstrates something of a change of heart.
Well, she's got a dad and he's got his daughter, so I was wrong when I said that staying alive is as good as it gets.
Humans are designed to be relational, not isolated individuals surviving by themselves. And that's what Selina is coming to understand. Notice the ruins. This was filmed at Waverley Abbey in Surrey, a monastery dating back to the 1100s. Like many such sites, it was caught up in the dissolution of the monasteries in 1536. Combine this setting with the church scene early on, and the hymns that permeate the film's soundtrack, Abide With Me, Ave Maria, In Paradisum. There is a memory of church, of Christianity, of transcendence undergirding this film. Though it is not acknowledged and the buildings lie in ruins, the loneliness can't help but prompt the question, maybe there's something more. You see that especially in Jim's dream. Sleeping in the abbey, he has a vision of himself all alone once again, his worst nightmare, with cries of hello that receive no answer.
Hello! Hello!
Behind him are the ruins of the abbey. Before him is a flock of sheep in disarray. It's reminiscent of Matthew 9. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Jim himself is a lost sheep, crying out for something more. This new family he has is good, but is it lasting? And is it enough? Perhaps that's the anxiety that his dream is flowing from. And what follows, the death of Frank, is one of the most gut-wrenching moments in the film. A single drop of infected blood to his eye renders him a threat, and it is here that the supposed salvation reveals itself at last. The soldiers. Here we encounter a stately home which has been converted into a military stronghold. It's well defended from the infected, but it has fueled a nihilistic philosophy among its occupants, a philosophy which takes on subtly different flavours. And you see this during the dinner scene. Sergeant Farrell focuses on what he might call the insignificance of humanity.
You know, man has only been around for a few blinks of an eye. So if the infection wipes us all out, that is a return to normality.
He sees us as a fleeting event in the grand history of the cosmos. And yet he is not fully committed to his nihilism. When Selina and Hannah are in danger, he sees it as his moral obligation to defend them.
Sergeant Farrell!
He even hints of a judgment that will be visited upon the soldiers for their depravity.
Mitchell! I swear to God it's gonna end badly for you! Move.
So on paper he's become something of a nihilist. But thankfully, when push comes to shove, it's not something he's living up to. What about his superior, Major Henry West?
This is what I've seen in the 4 weeks since infection. People killing people, which is much what I saw in the 4 weeks before infection and the 4 weeks before that, and before that, as far back as I care to remember, people killing people, which to my mind puts us in a state of normality right now.
He has a point. The rage, the propensity for humans to harm one another, to harm even that which is for our own flourishing. Such traits are indeed baked into the human condition. We are fallen, corrupted. So he's diagnosed something. But how does he choose to live in response to that? Well, it's rather chilling. Notice how he introduces Jim to Mailer, an infected soldier kept in chains.
The idea was to learn something about infection. Have him teach me.
And has he?
In a way. He's telling me he'll never bake bread, plant crops, raise livestock. He's telling me he's futureless. And eventually he'll tell me how long the infected take to starve to death.
Now, he's speaking about the infected here, but notice the criteria by which he's valuing human life. He values human beings by their utility. Can they bake bread, plant crops, raise livestock? In other words, can they contribute to society? If so, great. If not, they are lesser. They are futureless. Is this how Henry now thinks of all humans, even those who aren't infected? What does his worldview mean for the poor, for the disabled, for the downtrodden? Dystopian settings sometimes bring out the best in humanity, but frequently they bring out the worst. Henry later goes on to tell Jim the full truth.
8 days ago, I found Jones with his gun in his mouth. He said he was going to kill himself because there was no future. What could I say to him? We fight off the infected or we wait until they starve to death, and then what? What do 9 men do except wait to die themselves?
What's genius about this writing is you really feel his predicament. He cares about his men. And the problem is undeniable and unavoidable. It's very difficult to keep on surviving in an apocalypse without hope. It's crippling, and eventually it's lethal. It is not good for man to be alone. And yet, Henry's supposed solution to this problem is still an appalling one.
I moved us from the blockade, I set the radio broadcasting, and I promised them women. Because women mean a future.
It's the obvious outworking of his worldview. Survival of the fittest requires reproduction, whatever the cost, even if it means luring women to the base under the false pretense that it will be a safe refuge for them. And then we get to the final confrontation. I used to feel rather uncomfortable about it, because Jim goes on this rampage, becoming virtually indistinguishable from the infected, as he brutally kills the soldiers in order to save Selina and Hannah. I think we are meant to be disturbed by it all, but we also need to consider the context. Just before Jim goes on this rampage, what does he see? A plane in the sky, a sign of hope in the heavens. There is life out there. There is civilization out there. And what he does next flows from that renewed hope. He unleashes fury, not out of nihilistic rage, but in an act of rescue. He punishes the soldiers' corruption and sets the captives free so that together they may pursue the hope from beyond. The scene is accompanied by heavy rainfall, reminiscent of the flood in the Bible. The corrupt stronghold of the soldiers needs to be torn down, and that judgment is accomplished through Jim. And it is with Jim that a faithful remnant is rescued aboard an ark, the car, delivered through the waters of judgment and out the other side into a sunny future. Now, I'm not saying that Jim is a perfect saviour figure or a perfect pattern of conduct or anything like that, and perhaps pushing his thumbs into one of the soldiers' eyes is going a little bit too far. But in the context of the film, in a strange way, his grisly act of salvation proclaims a more transcendent vision for life.
We're gonna be okay. It's not all
Our reality isn't meaningless. It's not just survival of the fittest all the way down. There is more. There is something worth living for. The film began with utter loneliness. It is not good for man to be alone. And alone he was. His first hello was unanswered.
Hello?
But at the end of the film, things are different. Now he is with a woman and a child, a new family. And the film ends with one final hello. One that they make together. Not a hopeless cry into the abyss, but a greeting that they declare with confidence.
Do you think he saw us this time?
And their greeting is received. They shall be lonely no more. So it's a beautiful, hard-won, happy ending, and I think it resonates so much because for centuries our culture has been reflecting on the Christian story, the story of God himself entering into creation as the Good Shepherd, the one who lays down his life for his sheep. Whatever you make of that story, I think you glimpse it beneath the surface of 28 Days Later. So there we go, 28 Days Later. I loved this film, and I'm very excited for the release of 28 Years Later. I'll be covering that on this channel, so do subscribe if you'd like to stay in the loop. My name's Thomas Thorogood. I get into the deeper meaning of movies. Thanks so much for watching.